Quick little video today. Guys, we're over here. This is the back landing. This is what the builders did. 36 by 36. It meets minimum code as a landing. And then they added stairs to this, straight to the ground. We're in a 4-season climate. So up here in the wintertime, we get 3 to 4 feet of frost, which meant every winter, these stairs lifted, and so did the handrails. It all started coming apart because it's supposed to be against code to attach things to the house that are also in touch with the ground. But apparently builders have their own rules. What we're going to do is we're going to peel this apart like an onion, identify the structure. We're going to rebuild off that structure. Okay, we're going to use a lot of Simpson strong tie steel, and we're going to cantilever left, right, and off the front. And we're going to take this 3x3 and we're going to take it into a 4x7. Okay, we're going to bring it right up to in front of this nosing here so that the platform and the deck move independently of each other, and they are going to be finished off exactly 8 inches from the height of each other, which makes it one step, not engaged. Everything's free floating. This will be structural. It'll have a lot more room. It'll be pretty. This is how we roll. Let's just tear this old crap apart. Minimum code means they can put 1 nail at the top and 2 in the bottom of each of these spindles, which means step 1, tear the thing apart. I'm not as young as I used to be. Minimum code. When an old man can tear it apart with his bare hands. Yep, that's minimum code. Be careful now. Don't want to damage anything. And if you want to build something right, consider maybe a couple of structural screws. Wouldn't hurt, eh? Let's take all this off and see what we got to work with. We'll take as many screws out as we can. This is called working smart, removing as many screws as possible. I don't know if this is attached to the house. I think it's just the whole structure just sitting on the steel. Yeah, it's not actually attached. Oh my God, wait a minute. Oh, there's one bolt there. How the hell is that attached? There we go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Probably 3 or 4 screws over here too. We've got these 2 steel members bolted into the foundation wall, and then everything else is just sitting on top. So, in theory, I can take my 2x8s and set them on top, extend them out as far as I want to go. So I can take 3 of them, a couple of rims, come across, nail into the rims, structural fasteners. Oh yeah, baby. We're gonna make this as big as we feel like. So easy. These are bolted to the frame, but they're not gonna be incorporated into the actual rebuild. And we'll just get rid of these. Nice and simple. And that's it. Okay. This is the nuts and bolts of our deck here. Like, it's all a little bit flexible. The holes aren't in the same spot. Not sure. They must have drilled these on site, because we're gonna go 16 inch on center, give or take. It's not really all that close, but it's hard to get a drill in here to put a nut in too close to this inside corner, so I think that's why they cheated. But I'm going to be coming back with this bad boy right here. This is a structural screw, acts as a lag bolt, and I'm going to be using this to put in my wood. It's got a washer head, so I think that'll be a lot easier to put in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure off and drill some new holes. We have, there it is. I'm going to find one that is just a tad bigger than the hole that I need. There we go. Winner, winner. Okay. Yeah, that's off. Measuring off 16 1/4. That puts that one. Oh, these holes are already on. That's pretty good. Yeah. It's always so dramatic at the end, eh? All right. Yeah, that's that much out of level. Over just this 32 inches, it is 3/8 of an inch out of level. When they're building these things, it's a production build, right? They just stick it on the wall and go. It's not even level on the back, but it's not quite as bad. This is only out 1/8 instead of 3. So, there's a remedy for that, and we're gonna fix it as we build our frame. So I'll show you that in a minute. But what we're gonna do is just work out our plan here a little bit. I'm gonna have a privacy screen coming right across, surface deck, 6.5 feet tall. And I'm gonna build this platform out to meet the deck, but just shy. So it acts like a step, but this will float independently of this. Okay, so this is attached to the house, and this isn't. 4-season weather, we can heave in the frost a bit if it needs to be, it won't be a problem. We'll leave like maybe 1/2 inch of a gap just for everybody can be comfortable. But I don't want to have this much of a cantilever. That's really aggressive. Because we're using structural lag screws on both sides of the steel, that'll keep the deck from flipping up, okay? But I don't have an engineer here on site. So, I'm thinking I'm gonna tighten this up just a little bit so that my privacy screen here will be at this location, out to here, and then I'll start back here and then carry on. And what I want to do is I want to leave enough room here for someone to be on the deck, reaching past the privacy screen to open or close the gas line. Right? So that way you don't have to jump off the end of the deck and then walk all the way around. And we want to have access to that. Okay? So it's not perfect privacy, but it's close enough. Like, if somebody really wants to spy on you, they're going to find a way. So this is good. Let's take a look at this side. Just for the sake of balancing this out, I'm going to add a couple of feet on this side as well. But I want to come shy of this because I'm going to be putting a railing on that side, and we don't want to interfere with that. So I'm going to go outside measurement 14, and we'll go to here. When you're building a deck, something structural like this that's cantilevered, you want to treat every one of these joists like a rim joist. You want to double it up. So ×2, okay? And when you get to the end, you're going to want to do this. You want to have this one be the widest, and the second one you want to have it come 1.5 inches shy, okay? And then you're going to want to use something like this that has structural screws in it to bring out one joist, and then tack a second joist on the outside into this, right? And then you have the second one here, so the two of them add extra strength, but then you're nailing everything together at 2 different lengths as well. 2 different ways, 2 different fasteners, some screws, some nails. It just really multiplies the capacity of that, so you can't just rip it apart with your bare hands like the last one we had. But I'll get into all of that in a minute. If I want my outside measurement to be 68, and I'm going to be tacking on a second, I have to take off 3. So we're going to go a 65 inch. All right, and a 68. So I need 65 and a 62. And then in the second one, we're going to go 62, 62. We're just going to make it a double. And this one, I'm going to go same 62s, and then boom, boom, and then we'll go with another 62 and then a 65 at the other end. 4, 5, 6. All right, there we go. So now I got my frame. I'm going to go wide, short, 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 wide, and then I'll have this going on. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to double up. And double check my my overhang here. Remember, dimensional lumber, doesn't matter how wide the board is. Anything that's 2 is the same thickness, so there we go. That's relatively flush there. And I'm loving that. Okay, this is my long one. This is the short one. I've lined them up. I got my gaps right. I'm going to laminate them together now from the back side. So when I roll it up into position, I don't risk putting a bunch of nails into the siding. All right. And I want to keep it away. Okay. So let me just do this real quick. So I've got to measure off to screw this from underneath right now. We're going 3 inches past. This point here is only 1.5 inch past because I'm going to be adding a board on the outside. So I want to go 1.5. My center line looks to be about 8 3/4. Okay, so it's 8 3/4 from here to where this center of this is. Let's just put that on. There, that's where my bolt goes. Now this is a bit of a teeter-totter mess. Okay, so 2 things I'm doing here. One, I'm putting this all the way towards the siding, and then I'm going to pull it off the siding, a good 1/4 or so, okay? And I'm going to go like that. Mark my location here. 4 3/8, 4 1/4. Okay, there we go. Now I got my starting point. I'm square to the house, for whatever that's worth. There's my location. I bring that black line over to the middle of that rail on my line. There we go. And I'll do the same to the other one. All right, sweet. Now, this is temporary. We also have a leveling issue, and I don't know, because it teeters, Matt, if I can do the leveling now or if I got to do it later. So I'm just marking 3/4 off the center of that hole because wood is 1.5 inches wide, and I want it center of that hole on this beam here, right? So by putting that there, and then hopefully 7 1/4. Come over here, put my 7 1/4 mark. We'll line those 2 up and put a bolt in there. Now this is somewhat temporary because I am planning on coming back on this all later on and then squaring off this box. But you can see I can't build anything as it's tipping over. So, got to keep her from tipping over. There we go. Now we're going to assume that this is square to the house, which it isn't, and that's fine. But this has the ability to move, right? So I can pretty much square that off as I go. Bizarre. What was that again? 7 1/4, right? Yeah. Okay, and then that is 3/4 there, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll just bring it to the edge of that metal. Good. Foundation of our structure. How exciting. All right. Okay. Let's see how he measures. Yes, very nice. It seems like we got ourselves a warp. So what we're going to do is get rid of a warp here. This will be interesting enough, eh? Okay. The process for this, the nails are pretty close to here, but we're going to just wedge in my hammer, create a gap, And then I'm going to drive this screw. I don't think that's really long enough to make that work. I'm going to have to get closer to the front. There we go. Okay. So now I've got the screw in on an angle. Now I can get rid of the hammer. Okay. And drive that in, and it should pull it down. Ish. Yeah. When you got a warp on a short piece of wood, it's kind of hard to deal with it. Sink that head far enough. I'm just going to grab the planer and fix that. So I need to get end box now. 48. Exactly 48. Well, I'll be. That's handy, because I've got 8-foot lumber. .48 and a .45. So here's my 45. Let's see what we got going on here. Now, let's find out if we're at all square here. I could measure 3, 4, 5, but it's small, and I got a square sitting right here. Wow, look at that! Lo and behold, that's freaking me out. All right, not too often when you visualize it and it's still square. I'm gonna put a brace on this before I build anything else. Okay, without putting a hole in my hand. This is just temporary. Okay, that'll hold it square while we build. Awesome. I did it off camera, so it's not very much fair to you guys, but I showed you how it wasn't level on the back, right? And it wasn't level on the front, but I didn't show you how to level it. So, I did this earlier, I already know. This one, we're gonna assume is level coming off the building. We're not gonna increase the difficulty. I've used the stairs before. I never felt like I was falling forward, so we're just going to say, okay, that slope is good. But that is 3/8. Bam. The one in the back was out 1/8. Bam. I put this in the middle of these two, so according to the laws of slope, it's 2/8. Bam. The secret here is to install that under the beam where there's a hole when I put the screw in. It's easier if I can actually see the hole. I'm not going to go tight. Okay, so that he can lift it again. Here we go. Let's get that one in. All right. What we're doing here is we're adding structural steel and screw element to the beam. This is an inside cap, and it'll go into this, so that this beam is not going to be just nailed to it. It'll also be screwed to it. I just like the idea of having everything nailed and screwed. That's feeling really good to me there. I'm gonna get on the ground, slide up into position, and use that to stay out of the muck. People want to know how I stay clean all the time. I work like a princess. All right.
Did I give you a hand or?
What? Did you get out of here? Please, I got in. I can sure as hell.
Watch that gas line.
Whoa! All right. Still got it. All right. Wow. Okay. We're going to use joist tape today. Why not? We're going to have a lovely ensemble of your ass in the camera. That's lovely. You know, I got enough to actually do this. This is pretty cool. So I don't have to worry about doing any of that cut and seal. Ah! If you joist tape, you don't need cut and seal. Yay! I mean, you can probably get benefit of using cut and seal regardless. I was planning on using joist tape out here from the beginning because I had it, which is why I didn't use the cut and seal like I did in the rest of the deck. Whew! All right, so here we are. I'm gonna picture frame this so it's nice, so it's pretty, just like the deck. It's kind of a semi-picture frame. I'm just gonna do one across the front, and then we're gonna go this way with all our boards, just like the deck. And in a perfect world, I would have measured off and built this to be the exact same size so that my deck boards lined up with these deck boards, but it's not a perfect world, and it won't really matter. So we're gonna go with 71 3/4. Woo! That's some decent shape still. Gonna do some surface screwing. So I've got my overhang at 1 3/4. Boom. All the sides. Because, you guessed it, we are going to take cedar and we're going to cap all this and make it look pretty later. So we want it to be consistent. The secret here for the strength is because these screws don't really have heads, is if I step here, the board wants to roll. I'm going to add a little more support there later, but for now, I'm going to go just off the side. There you go, now it won't roll. We're just going to go a little overkill. Why not? One more here. All right. And a couple of surface screws here as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Right, here we go. There we go, guys. Look at that. Now it's coming together. Well, there we have it, gentlemen. Okay. You know, funny thing is, these hidden fasteners have been in the industry a long time. And still a lot of people don't know about them. Generally speaking, they take about twice as long to install on a deck as a regular fastener. And for that reason alone, a lot of the guys in the trades shy away from the use of them, which is a big mistake. Because it more than doubles the life expectancy of the deck. So as a consumer, make sure you ask about it. And ask for the camo system by name specifically, because there is another hidden deck system out there where they actually screw a metal bracket to the top of the surface of the deck, and then it extends and goes like like a V-shape back down to the deck. But you have to crawl under the deck to attach all the screws from underneath. Back in the day, that was the only thing available. So if somebody wanted a hidden deck fastener, well, they were really paying for something special at that point. It's like not too many people ready to crawl along underneath the deck just to be able to screw it down. If I'm going to be putting down tools, having two of these makes things go a lot faster. And now I've got to go rip something 2 3/8, 2 1/4. All right, we need a cutting surface. We're going to use this side, measure over. So I'll screw this down. All we do now is I lift the plate a little bit. So now I'm guaranteed to cut all the way through, but not cut the actual deck. When you're cutting, the black line is where the blade goes. So it's always best to have it on your pencil mark so you don't cut too small. Here we go. And now we shape. We want to give it the same bevel as the other side of the wood. Like a glove. Okay, this is a little trickier now. All right, the last part of the project today is to finish installing a little handrail here. And as you know, we're going with black accent. So we've got some caps over there, gone with the post bases. There's another option. You could have always done the 4x4 post as a part of the structure. But generally speaking, a safety railing like this, just for a couple feet off the ground, it's not really necessary to integrate it. And it's a little more flexibility for location. This allows me to screw the bottom of the base right down, right to the bottom here, and I can pick my location to be right on the joist on 3 locations, at least anyway, which is good. What we need to know is, in order to install this bad boy, we got to design a handrail. Now, that's 34. The caps go in there 3/4 of an inch. So that makes it 32.5 of actual space. I'm gonna put a 2x4 like this, top and bottom. So that's 32.5 for 7 is 39.5. I'm gonna have a 2x4 across the top on the flat. Makes it 41. And I'm gonna have 1 inch in space on the bottom. That makes it 42. And because I'm using these, I need 43, and I like to have an inch between the cap and the handrail. So we'll cut the post 44. Boom, done. So we're gonna just cut a couple 44s. We need 3 pieces of lumber. Let's go not too close to the house. I'm gonna be able to put a cap on that later. That will clear just fine. 3 pieces of lumber, and we'll go forward a little bit here. I think that makes it 37. Yeah, 37 inches. That sounds like fun. Okay, so let me just get all this cut. 2 at 44, 3 at 37. Piece of cake. Here we go. So now we got that straight. We need a measuring tape here, my pencil. Now you want to have a spindle every 4 inches. So you can take a quick look from the end and go, okay, well, let's assume we start at 4. 4 times, that one is still 4. Now that's a 5-inch hole. Problem with that is, this is attached to the house. It's higher than 2 feet off the ground. It has to meet code for the handrail. I can't have that big of a hole. Or some little young kid with the pointy head is going to stick his head through that hole, get stuck, fall off the side, break his neck, and I get sued. So what we're going to do, that's why I went to 37, because it's more educational. We're going to go 36 is 18 and half is my center. So here's my center line, all right? We're gonna drill there. And we're gonna take a look at what every 4 inches looks like here. 16 is my last one, and then it'll be the same gap on the other side. Okay? That works really nice. So there's my spot right there, I believe, right? $16. So 4, 8, 12. The reason you want to use the square to mark this off is I've already made these ends the same size and they're flush. And by using the square, I'm going to drill in the same location. That'll keep all my spindles straight up and down. When I'm all done, I'll take out my sander, get rid of my pencil lines, clean up all my edges, get rid of all of my stray hairs, we call it. Well, I don't know if it's a we, but it's definitely a me. I call it the hair. Cedar has a tendency to do that, especially when the saw blade's been working a while. It starts to get a little frayy. Okay, here we go. Now, we also have 1.5 inch lumber. We want to have everything in the center. That's at 3/4. That's this line right here. There, that's easier to do. Okay, that'll be a lot easier to see. So, we're just gonna start down here and well, hell with it. I'm cutting it out anyway. Let's just go like this. Okay. I know exactly where the Fastener bit goes. Now, if you're not familiar with a Fastener bit, that's what these are. They're basically flat bottom holes. Almost. Now that's a Ryobi kit. It has a bunch of sizes and it has a pointy tip. So it's not a true Fastener, but for anybody at home, that kit was only 30 bucks. And they don't have the exact size for these spindles that you buy off the shelf at Home Depot. Because those spindles come with a little rubbery type kind of plastic cap. So the challenge here is this. You have the option to buy the pressure treated rails at the Home Depot pre-drilled. They're not always in stock, and more nowadays you got to learn how to do everything yourself from scratch. So that's why we're doing this. They don't make them in the cedar. They used to years ago when supply wasn't an issue, but now it's like, why would I cut boards and stick it there and maybe no one will buy it? So now I'm going to drill all this. Now I need to do something so I can mark the end of my flat part of the bit. 3/4. And for good measure, I'm going to cut to 1 inch deep. Just because things move over time. And when you're installing, you want to have a little flexibility. Okay? It's okay if the hole's a little bit bigger. If I go 1/4 deeper, it means it's only in the top 1/2 inch. But that's plenty to make it function. It just makes it easier to install. And now I stick the tip of that little bit right there on the line in the middle of my black hole. And drill. Until my black line is at the edge. Now you could use painter's tape or any other kind of tape. I have no tape on me today. So that's why I'm going gangster and using marker on the bit. Yeah, I know. Just a quick tip. If you're doing a series of rails around the house and they're all different measurements, do yourself a favor. Always measure from the center unless you get the rail right up at the edge. If you measure that, then you can go left to right or right to left, whatever. But almost always starting in the center is going to give you the most professional look. To have the same gap at each end of each rail section, which by code have to be only 5 feet or smaller, it's real obvious to anybody who walks in the room if you took the time to use a measuring tape. Okay, I just got to sand. So I got my post. This one here has got a couple of little splits in it, but that's okay. I got a 2x4 and 2x4 and cap and 2x4, and I'm gonna have it facing in towards the rest of the stuff. So that's good. And it'll get attached to this. Wow, that was easy. And then we use these screws here. Now, this gets, believe this or not, I'm gonna show you. 4 in the bottom, okay? And then 4 around the edge. And then, when it's time to screw it down to the deck, we screw it through these outside corners, okay? So first you attach it to your member here. And I'm gonna do it this way because I like to remind myself which way it's facing. Now because this is softwood lumber, there's no need to pre-drill, all right? Just set it up and go. One word of advice, get a brand new Phillips number 2-bit. If it starts to strip like this, you're in trouble because this is soft metal. It's hardware from China. Like I've always said, they make the worst screws in the planet. They got the softest steel. So you gotta be real careful. It's not a diss, it's just a fact. If anybody is offended with the fact that Chinese steel sucks, I'm not gonna apologize. They knew it when they made it. They made it to be cost effective, not strong. Oh, neighbor's cooking again. Ay, I wonder if they want to adopt another son. Is that my split? Yep. There we go. One down, one to go. The screws that they're using to mount to the deck are actually, they require a 1/2-inch drive. You might want to go out and get yourself a little set, these little sockets. Most structural components out there require some sort of a 6-sided head. So I bought a set, has a half, it has 7/16, it has 3/4. I think that's it. Just all the majors, okay? We'll get to that in a minute. And I know you said, you know, you don't have to pre-drill. Every once in a while, you come across a piece of this that's a knot. And if you get a knot, you can either pre-drill or just leave it alone. We're talking about 8 screws to secure the base. If one of them can't go in for whatever reason, it's not going to be the end of the world. Yeah, it's something like that. Oh well. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. This nasty split is courtesy of Home Depot. Huh? Climate controlled storage means that stuff really dries out. We're going to go back here. I do not need to do any more work here, so I'm going to switch over. I'm going to anchor this post, and I'm going to put my first rail in, and then we'll go from there. Now, in this environment, it wouldn't hurt to pre-drill. Again, the cedar boards here, we want something that's the same size as the shaft. Boom. Okay, and we have 1 3/4. I always check, I don't know why. I know what it is. There we go. That's as far out as I can go. As long as this gap is less than 4 inches, you're fine. I'm gonna try to make it somewhat square here. Okay? It's all in the details. If you build everything square, then everything lines up. For instance, we have a 2x4 here. It's gonna go across the top. But what happens if this is installed with a bit of a twist? And that one isn't at that end. So it's nice and closed and square there, and over here you got an open gap. Well, that's the kind of workmanship where you're really going to get in trouble. So also have to consider the fact that the wood in most cases is going to be twisted in a lot of cases. So here's a secret. Are you serious? What am I doing here? Oh, wrong hole. Trying to put that in as if the pre-drill, but that was actually a screw. Okay, I'm only gonna put one screw in one corner right now. All right, I'm gonna set this one up, same thing, one of the outside corners. Allows these to all rotate in place. Then I'm gonna build all of this, and then I'm gonna set the rest of the screws, okay? Just a little bit of voodoo goes a long way here, guys. Setting up 1 3/4 again off the edge, 2 inches off the front, pre-drill. And we're gonna put this on a bit of an angle. I want my screw angled this way and that way, so I'm gonna hold it from out here. Now, let's build. We're gonna build on these blocks. These are 1 inch. Perfect spacer, set it and forget it. Boom. Forgot to count for the height of these bad boys. I only gave myself 1 inch clearance. And then I gave myself another inch, another 2 inches just in case. I'm an idiot. And I am 2 inches to the cap, and that's only 1 1/2, so I have 1/2 inch to spare. Whew, dodged a bullet there. That was not on purpose. That was just me knowing that I do dumb stuff, so I gave myself an extra 2 inches on the post, because I'd rather have higher posts for no particular reason, and then cut them down if I find them looking stupid, than to cut a $45 piece of cedar in 2 pieces and be a 1/2 inch short. That would be really maddening. These things come with special brackets, you know, and you can use them. But again, these black screws, they strip super easy. Now the Robertson this time around instead of Phillips, which is a miracle. But basically all it is you stick these to the end of the, and then you stick them in, and you gotta take into account the measurement here. So it gets a little bit bloody ridiculous, doesn't it? I'm not gonna use them. I'm just gonna go old fashioned. I find it's just too many pieces of black. And I'm going to get cedar deck screws. Alrighty. Rules for decking. When you're doing a railing like this, you gotta do 2 things. You gotta attach it and you gotta keep it from moving over time, okay? Really hard to screw in an angle. Start up top, put in a hole, put it in reverse, and then while it's spinning backwards, change your angle. Now you've burned the entry angle. Look at that, ready to roll. Perfect every time. Perfect every time. Now this looks like it might be a bit of a pain in the butt, right? My son Nate taught me this trick. I had him doing all the spindles on a job one day. Oh, it may not work with this. Yeah, it won't work with this. Sorry Nate, your trick will not work because I'm not using the rubber stops. Let's just try to line it all up and see if we can get lucky. Ho, ho, ho. What he does is he twists and lifts it up a little bit into the hole. Here we go, here we go. Almost got them all. Oh, shoot. Yes. Okay. Now the only thing left to do is make sure that it's level because the holes can be inconsistent. So I'm just gonna measure this off. One end I am 32.5. The other end I am 32 3/4. We're gonna see if we can drop this down a bit. Here. That'll be the same. Nice. 32.5. 32.5. Beautiful. All right. Okay, so we're gonna make sure that we are perfectly somewhat squarish. We'll do the same thing to these ends here. Okay, so I like where everything is laying. My gaps are healthy. Nice. Well, that's got to be just as good, if not better, than the last one. At least it's not ugly. We got the little tiny set screws here. Wow, that just made it, eh? Whew, if you're not handsome, be lucky. That looks a little sloppy with that big fat head on it. Maybe we'll have to switch it out to something not so obnoxious. But anyway, it's $5. Listen, if you don't cap your posts, what happens is the water sits there and then it starts to eat through the grain that's exposed. And then it just goes nothing but splits, okay? So do yourself a favor. Always cap your posts like everyone else in the neighborhood. Oh yeah, they didn't. Wow, enjoy putting that new fence up in 10 years. Ay, ay, ay. All right, guys, well, listen, nothing says sexy like cedar and black aluminum. Like, this is amazing, eh? Love it. Listen, I know that life is expensive and inflation's a bit, but consider this. Every time you put $1 into your house, you get $3 return on your investment. So it's not that it's expensive. It just costs a few bucks to invest in your house. That's all.